And here we are again, another video. This is me with Summer again, another interview with Summer. This is part two of Summer's stories, actually, because she's got so many. Um, so here we are. So I think you were said, Summer, you wanted to carry on from the last video. Is that right?
Yeah. Um, Good morning. Yeah, we could start from the last video. I think I was talking about maybe a house I had rented from my sister. She left because it was really haunted and she was scared of it. So, but I took the lease over when they bought a house because they couldn't get out of the lease. What was weird about that house is after she left and I moved in for a few months, it just didn't scare me. I felt fine there. So
Hmm.
that was where we left off. Um, and then after I talked to you, I remembered I was kind of going through places I've lived and things that I've experienced. So lived in that house a little bit and nothing happened to me there. But then I got married and my husband and we rented a house for a little bit. Nothing seemed to be going on there. Then we went and rented an old farmhouse, and that place was very strange. Um, my husband worked evenings, but I wasn't scared at night or anything. He usually got home about 11, so it wasn't all night. Um, but when we moved there, we had cats, and you know how cats are.
Hmm.
They're just always doing something. But they would. My cats were pretty chill. So weird. It was weird. They would go to the bottom of the stairs and just like not go upstairs because since it was such a big house and it was just my husband and I put their litter box and stuff at the top of the steps so it wouldn't be downstairs and. So they didn't want to go up there. They would go up there, but then they'd come zooming back down. So that was when I first started noticing there was something different about that house. Um, and then like little things would happen, like we had an old TV and it might just be an old TV, but it was working pretty good. And one night I was watching it and then it just blew up, like it just blew. The old TVs had the picture tubes,
Hmm.
so it kind of just popped. And then that same night, one of my cats was out in the. I couldn't find her, and then I found her out in the garage, and she looked like something had attacked her. But she was fine, and I cleaned her up and everything. But it just seemed like things off were off there, things like that all the time. And we only lived there about, I wouldn't even say 6 months, maybe 3 months. But what started happening at that house is we would wake up around, I think it was 2:15, or no, it was 3:15. I started waking up at 3:15 for no reason. And then my husband kind of started doing it, and we were like, this is weird. So anyway, we decide we're gonna rent an apartment. So this place was too big for us anyway. So we were moving. We were moving out, and we got all of our stuff out. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I told my husband, I said, I think I forgot this plant thing that I said I need to. It's really nice, and I said, I can hang my plant on it, but you'll have to go in and unscrew it from the wall. I said, I forgot that. So we went back to the house, and then we walked up on the porch, and I just got this feeling. I was like, I do not want to go in the house. It was like something was like
Hmm.
evil, it was like telling me, just get out of here. So I told my husband, I said, well, you just go in because I don't feel right about this. So anyway, he went in, got this plant thing, and he was a little uncomfortable too. And we got situated in our apartment and things, back to normal a little. And I noticed, for I bet you 6 months after that, I would just wake up at like 3:15. And I don't know why, or if it was, some energy with that house. I don't know if you've ever had anything like that happen, but it was very strange. And I always, nothing happened to us or anything, but it definitely was something carried over from that home. So
Hmm.
I don't know, what do you think about that?
Um, I used to have a electric, the clock radios. They have, you used to have next to your beds. I used to have one of them. And when we had that, I always used to wake up around 3 o'clock, 3:15, 3 after 3
Well, yeah,
every day. I did. I
that's
don't have it
exactly.
no more, but when I did, I always used to wake up around that time. It's
Well, and
quite
that's
weird.
exactly what I was doing, and it was the old, yeah, the old digital ones that we
Yeah,
used to have.
digital ones. Yeah, that's what I had. Yeah,
And so that's how I knew it when it was so strange. And then I read that that's kind of some kind of hour where there's more paranormal and the
yeah.
veil thin.
Witching
So
hour.
yeah, and I was like, so that was an experience I had in that house. And then we moved out of that place pretty quickly into an apartment, and of course nothing happened there. It was a newer place, but newer places can be haunted, but that wasn't under my radar really. Um and then we moved out of our apartment into an older little home, and we were pretty busy, but I never felt like anything was going on there. Um, so then let me see. Um, we moved to Roberts Road out in the country, this big country home. And the original house was very small, but they built onto it, so it was like a Victorian farmhouse.
Mm.
And that's where I had a lot of experiences. And we lived here almost 30 years, so I think I told you in the last interview about my sisters, how they felt the same thing I did.
I
Did
think
we
so.
just?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first thing. That was after we lived there a few months. And then, we had our kids there. And that's when kind of things happen quite often. Um, One thing in particular I remember is I would read to my kids every night. So when we first moved there, in the old houses, everything's not done. So they didn't have heat like upstairs. So we were all living downstairs till we could get that enough money to do that. So I was in this room that adjoined to a dining room, and I closed the door in the dining room. And then there's like a living room my husband was in, and I was reading to the kids. On my daughter was in her bed, so we had her bed down there. So I was reading to her. Everything's just really chilled out, and I was reading, and all of a sudden, it's like something hit the dining room door. I mean, like you could just hear it crack.
Mm.
It just like was a big crack, like a crack. And my husband was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "I don't know." So we were able to get up and we run around. You have to go around into the kitchen to go over to the dining room. And we go in there, and there's nothing out of place. Nothing. And I had a cat. He was asleep in the chair still, like he hadn't heard anything. Um, so I would never know what that was. Everybody was so
Mm.
scared. The kids were like, "Oh my goodness." And yeah. So that was one of the, I think, scarier things that had happened in the house. And then when my daughter got older, this is really funny too. Um, the older homes have parlors,
Mm.
so it had the old pocket doors, and I used it as a garden room. So I would assume, as old as that house was, that somebody probably had died and they maybe had a person there. I don't know, maybe not, but I would assume they may have. But anyway, this room was beautiful, and I loved it. I always felt real peaceful in it. Um, but my daughter had this party, and I think these kids were almost in college, and one of her friends uh, was sitting out on the steps. And I said, well, why are you doing out here? And he said, I'm not going back in that house. And I said, why? He said, well, there's just something there. And I said, well, why don't you come in? I said, you can sit in, I call it the parlor or the garden room. I said, you can sit there for a little bit. And he's like, no, that's the worst place. I said, really? And he said, yeah, there's something in there and I'm not going there. And so it was weird. And he never, like, this was a great party house for kids and stuff. This old farmhouses, and it was just beautiful. And, he would never, Graham was his name. He said, I'm never going back there. And then another experience I had was my daughter had we eventually moved upstairs. My daughter had a bedroom at the top of the stairs. And it was this cool, like kind of an octagon room, how they have on the corners of those old houses. And I always felt that room was a little strange. But one night, this mother, she was kind of different. I would have to say, I don't know if you guys have heard the term goth, maybe. She had all the tats.
Yeah.
And she had, she was a nice lady, but she had like bright red hair and tats, and she was into like fortune telling and all that. So, but she seemed nice enough. But anyway, she comes to pick up her son who had been visiting my son. And she pulled up in the driveway and I ran out to talk to her for a few minutes. And she looked up at Chantel's, that's my daughter's room, and in the corner of the house. And she said, that room is not good. There's something there. And I was like, oh my God. So I said, really? I said, some people do say this house is haunted. And she said, well, I don't know, but just watch that room. So, yeah, and I didn't tell my daughter because I didn't want to scare her, but I told Austin. He was like, yeah, he said, I think there is some weird energy in that room. So there was so many things that happened there. Yeah, and I think, I talked about the top hat man that I saw?
Yeah, she did, yeah.
Yeah. That's in the first part
Yeah.
so if anybody wants to listen to that. So those were two things that were kind of odd. Outside, gosh, there's so many. I'm trying to think. Oh gosh.
I think you told me loads as well, and we've talked off camera. So I probably, so it's hard because you can't remember. Did you say it in the video? Or did you tell me off video? Some stuff.
Yeah. I think I pretty much remember what I told you. There was a few things I told you about the old farmhouse, but not a lot. There was just so many. I'm just trying to think in my mind of,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is one. The room I discussed in my first video about, I said I thought my husband came back and was there, and
Yeah.
we had that as a bedroom. So anyway, like I said, we all moved upstairs, and we used the old bedroom we first stayed in as an office. So we put a computer in a corner and everything. It was pretty cool, and that room was always very cold, and the computer, you'd have your back into the room like it was in the corner, so you're in I would feel like somebody walked up behind me a lot, or was looking over my shoulder. And sometimes my husband would do that just to tease me or something, but I'd look back and there'd be nobody there. So I didn't say anything to anybody, and then the kids started saying they felt like that too, because I didn't put the idea in their head. And then my husband was like, yeah, it's always cold in there. He said, I opened the registers and it's always cold. I said, well, maybe it's because it's in this, corner section of the wall over here. Maybe it's more brick or something, but I don't know. It just always felt off. Oh, and then when I was moving all of our stuff upstairs, I was in the closet getting some clothes out to take upstairs, and I felt like something just walked up on me real quick. You know, if you ever felt, you know, if somebody was like, say you were walking down the sidewalk, somebody came up to you real quick, you feel it
Yeah.
almost before you see it. So, I was in there. I was like, oh my goodness, what is that? And then it kind of backed off. It was like, I don't know if it was something that maybe thought I was moving out and didn't want me to. But after it seemed like as the couple days progressed, I never felt it anymore. But when I first started moving the stuff up, you know, it was like a nosy ghost or something.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
Just,
like,
I'm just curious.
Huh?
Sorry to go slightly off track.
Yeah.
You know, where you are now, do you have anything like this happening now, or is it just all this happening in the past? Is it just like,
Oh, in the home I'm in now,
yeah,
um, when I first moved here, no, but just recently, yeah.
yeah, all right, okay, just curious. You don't have to,
Actually,
you don't have to, you tell me because obviously you've got a, you're going through it as over
oh
a
no,
time
that's
scale,
okay.
yeah, yeah. I don't
Well,
want to.
if, that's fine too. It makes it a little more interesting if you want me to tell you.
No, no, it's up to you. Of course you can. It's just
Okay.
you.
Um,
It's entirely up to you. Really up to you. I'm just curious because it seems to be happening for different houses. So I'm just like curious. I'm just curious if it happened like now. That's all. It just came into my head.
well, yeah, and well, back to that. It's good you asked that because like I said, you know, my husband passed away. So, and then my son moved out of the house about the same time. So I'm in this huge farmhouse all by myself.
Yeah,
And you think that I might be scared. Um, but it was like there wasn't any energy anymore.
yeah,
It was like there was nothing there. Um, so it was like whatever was there either left with my husband or my son or both of them. So I'm gonna have to. Can you stop? I'm gonna have to let my dog out. Hold on. Hold on.
so when the mine hasn't started,
Huh?
and when my dog hasn't started barking.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. You, you never do this. Sorry. So that's yeah. Back to that is um, I don't know if certain people bring in certain things or
Yeah, yeah. I'm just because what it was. Because you've told me your stories now, and you've also told me other stories. You've got events that's happened to you and your family and stuff. I just kind of think like why it's happening. You understand what I mean?
yeah.
In a positive way. You know, not to know. Is it like some something's attracted to your energy or your son's energy or in your past your husband's energy? Just sort of kind of trying to link it all together because it's quite fascinating how it's sort of developed different ways through different houses, isn't it? You know what I mean? That's what I was trying to think.
Yeah, I kind of think it's my ability maybe to pick up something if there is something
Yeah,
in a home. Um, but then again, because not every house that I've been in has been haunted
yeah,
or I've had any issues with. Like I
yeah.
said,
Okay.
one little old house we moved into, it was very old, and you know, you would think that if anything was going to happen, it would have happened there, but
Yeah,
nothing happened. But then, you know, back to that as like some people do bring in things like my sister, I think she had some bad energy because she moved wherever she went, it seemed like stuff was going on and
yeah,
not good stuff. And then I think there was something with my husband too, but I'm not sure what. But it wasn't always there. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, but in this house, my new home, I mean, there was a man. He passed away. I don't know if he passed away in the house, but that's why I ended up buying the house because he passed away. Um, but so this happened just a couple weeks ago. I was sitting in the living room by myself, just watching TV, and I heard like, you know how a glass like will pop.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, you know, I have one of those little candle warmers out in the kitchen, and I thought, well, darn, I think it just busted. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go out there. It's gonna be wax everywhere.
Yeah.
You just those little things. I was like, oh my gosh. So I go out there, nothing.
Mm.
And I'm looking around and nothing. My dog is asleep on a couch. There's no one else here. And so I just really couldn't figure it out what it was. Never did find anything broke or anything. And so that was kind of odd. I mean, but for the most part here, it's very calm. I'm sometimes when my boyfriend's here, he'll hear something. We'll hear somebody walking around upstairs is what it is. Because on this house it's small, so you can hear that if the dog's upstairs doing something, you
Yeah.
can hear him around. So there's been a few nights we've heard something up there, and he'll be like, "I told you, did you not lock the door?" And I was like, "I always lock the door."
Yeah.
I always lock the door. Yes, it's locked. And so we've heard that, and but I said, I think the weirdest thing that's ever happened, and I've been here 5 years, was just that a couple weeks ago, whatever that was.
Mm.
So, yeah. But
Maybe it's
not every house I've been in has been, like that.
yeah. Maybe it's just the fact that because you say not every out. Maybe you're just receptive to certain I don't know what you call it, like spirits, ghost, or something. You're just receptive, because you've got spiritual abilities and stuff. Maybe you pick up on it. Whereas I could go in the house, maybe and not sense anything, and you're just aware of it more. Maybe,
Yeah, and
you
and,
know.
and weird is I kind of helped my son and his wife look for homes. So I would kind of go with them, and
Yeah,
there were some houses we'd go into, and where the energy was just off.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, might not be a bad looking home, or might even be a good price, but like my son would more, we would feel it more. He would feel it more, but I could too. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Funny thing happened this morning with me. I obviously not going to mention names. I have to take my son into school because of where he is and stuff. And I saw this kid come in, and I just there's something about him, something like I thought, oh my god, this little one's got really bad energy. I don't know what to say, but it was really, really almost went through me, Um, I just can't describe it, Just that's the only way I could describe it. It was like really bad vibe of him, and I suppose that's the only word I could say. I've seen the boy before, never noticed it before, but this morning it was really strong. I sensed it in him, and
So do you think it was like
only a very small boy. He's not like a teenager. He's only a youngster, But he was really. I thought, wow.
you think it was like he's bad, or is there maybe something bad happening to him?
No, I think it's more that he's perhaps in a bad place. I don't think I know his family and stuff. I don't think it's anything like that. I don't think it's. I think he's. I don't know. It's on the move.
I'm sorry, I had to just close the door.
uh,
Anyway.
yeah, I just think he's in a bad place. I don't think there's anything like wrong with him otherwise. Um, I've seen it before in children. I helped a child once, healed a child once, who was going through a very bad spell where he was. Again, I gotta watch what I say because I know many parents might watch. He was in a bad place, put it this way, and he was getting sort
Yeah.
of like compulsive behaviour and stuff like that. And he just when I something like one day I just sort of like I scanned him. That's the only way I describe it. I can't really put it into words. And I just felt like he was off centre. If that makes sense. He wasn't right. And I focused on making him centre. And the next thing I knew, about a week or so later, I found out he's not perfect, but he's much better than he was now. So this boy I think is like that, but much worse. He's like really off centre, if you know what I mean. Really off the
Yeah.
tune of his energies and stuff. But
It's scary because you see, like, if you watch any of the crime shows, I've watched some about parents that have had kids that were seem to be like a bad, I don't know if there's any such thing, but a bad seed, or
Yeah.
they'll say, the kids, the person was always off, and people around them would sense it too. Um, so you just never know.
Yeah. See, the way I look at it, I see people like in vibrations, different levels, go up and down. Sometimes I see the people with low vibrations usually, they're just normal, they're on their path, but they're just in a low vibration. I think that's fine, yeah. But sometimes I see the people in the low vibrations, they're completely, they're not like going, they're not in a straight line and on the path they should be. They're really off their path, and that's sometimes I help them get back on it. It's really hard to put into words. I just see it, but I can't explain it very well. And
Yeah.
this boy was really off his path a lot. He was very low vibration, yes, obviously, but he's young anyway. But he was really like off it, Um,
That's scary. I wonder what's going on with
yeah, I'm
him.
not sure. I think if I was
And
like
it's
that as an adult, I don't know what state I'd be in. As a youngster, I don't know what to say. Maybe it's different, but if I was like that as an adult, I think I'd be in a really bad place, myself. But
right. And
it's hard to put into words.
it's scary with all the stuff that's going on in
Yeah,
schools now. But yeah, I think we talked too in the first interview about that the man that I had encountered that
yeah,
had killed his family. Just that weird, wow, off
yeah,
energy. But he didn't have it all the time. Now, I think some people kind of switch around. Like, he didn't always have that. I mean, because like he used to come in with the other guys and he was fine. But yeah, but you can sense that.
yeah. And on a show I do on Tuesdays with Roger Hansen and Karma. Well, Karma's finishing on it, but she's on yesterday's episode. We were actually talking about um, how when I was young, when yourself was young, you could read people a lot easier than you can read them now because everyone's got like fronts up now. Whereas when you were young, you could read a person straight away. But
Really?
I used to find that anyway. But like now, you can't. Everyone's got their little walls up. They're just hidden behind there. You don't really know properly. You can't. Very hard to read people on these days. I find anyway.
I
And
wonder if the social media, I think
yeah,
my boyfriend and I have talked a lot about this, about the lack of social skills now, because he worked in a diversity center. Well, I worked with him um, around a lot of young kids. College students, but they were young. Um, and how different the young people seem now. I mean,
yeah,
because this a few years ago that he worked there. Um, yeah, like social media, they call it social media, but I don't
yeah.
think they should call it social media at all because you're not socializing.
No, that's what we were talking about. Actually, social media, and then the the lack of parenting and stuff these days because there's so many single parent families. But it's not saying that's all bad because some dads are absolutely brilliant bringing up their parents. But the general trend, as you see in the UK as well, and now is you see mums raising up their kids. They get like pregnant because they just want to have a baby. They don't think about the consequence of bringing up the child and how much they're going to be there for their child. They want a baby. They'll just go and have a baby.
Yeah,
And they're on benefits to pay for everything. They get houses, everything. There's no, and then you see them. Then you go into town. You see them in the pub in the middle of the day, and you think, well, how can you be looking after your son? Well,
right.
when you're in the pub in the middle of the day, and stuff like that. And it's just, whereas when I was brought up, you know, my parents were always there for me. They were there, and probably yours were as well. It's
Yeah,
different upbringing. Um,
right. Even my boyfriend, well, he grew up kind of hard. He was grew up in Harlem, but he had a brother, and his mother was single, but his mother was very diligent with those boys, and she was a nurse, and she raised them, and they both ended up going to college and all
no, that's
kinds
good.
of stuff because she just was. And he said it's funny. It was you think of Harlem back in the old days. It's different now. It's really nice. They gentrified it or something. But he said you think of that and you think of all the terrible stuff they put on TV. But he said there was a sense of community.
Yeah.
People would see him doing something bad, and they said, "Well, I'm going to go tell your mom, or I'm going to,
Yeah.
you better stop." And he said people looked out for each other
Yeah.
in the neighborhood there, and they looked out for his mother. Like she could walk home late at night, they'd walk her home, even though
Yeah.
they
It's
meet
nice.
the best characters themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we've lost a lot of that.
We have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw, this is really sad, is we were at like a Coney Island, I think is what it was, where there, you have the pool, and we were watching, we were getting ready to watch some fireworks, and there was this little girl. I bet you she's probably about 4, with her. I assume it was her mom and dad. Yeah, and she took her mom's cell phone, and her dad said, give that back to your mom. And she's like, no, because she won't stay off of it.
Oh
So,
God, that's bad.
so anyway, the mom gets the phone back, and I'm just watching, and then the mom gets right back on the phone.
Yeah.
So
No, not
this
good.
is a kid that's like, you're not paying attention to me. What are you doing?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's it. They don't get enough attention. Children don't know. That's a good point with the phone. I never thought about that, but that's true as well. And they're on
Yeah,
social media posting, or I'm at the hospital, and they could just be visiting someone. They just post on social media, I'm at the hospital, and everyone's like, are you okay? Everything all right? Just to get the attention. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
well, I think they're wanting attention. Yeah, and and,
Yeah.
and back when to paranormal though, I think that sometimes leaves them open for some bad stuff.
Yes. True.
Not all the entities out there are good.
Yeah.
Because I know in the old house we lived in, I believe there were many spirits in that old farmhouse, and if there was some good ones, but then it seemed like there was a few bad ones.
Yeah.
Very bad ones.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and there was, oh, this happened one night. When we came home. Actually, it was from like a Kings Island type thing that night. We came home, we were pretty tired, and so we all went to bed. And I think, yeah, I was starting to drift off to sleep, and I felt like something coming up the stairs. And all of our bedrooms were upstairs. There was a master bedroom, and my son's, and then my daughter. So I could just feel it in my head that something was coming up the stairs. I didn't hear it,
Yeah.
and I just felt it, and it didn't feel good. It was very intense, and whatever it was, when it got to the top of the steps, it's like it looked in my son's room, and it looked in my daughter's room, and then it came into our room, and it was like I could feel it pass over us, and it was terrible. It was this terrible, horrible, evil thing. It just felt horrible.
Mm.
And then it was gone, and I was like, wonder what that was. And so, I did tell my husband about it. He wasn't quite as open to paranormal as me, and he was working a lot too. But this was weird. About maybe 3 months after that, and he never had nightmares or anything, my husband, but he had some kind of nightmare. He was kind of screaming and stuff, and he woke up, and I was like, what is wrong? And he's like, I don't know, there was something here. It felt like what you were just, he said, felt like what you told me about. And luckily we never felt that entity anymore, in that house, I don't think. No. But yeah, there
Mm.
was something kind of crazy there,
Any idea what you think it was? Anything?
I don't know.
No.
I don't. And that was scary. And also around that same time, I had a dream, and I think it was in my dream, because I do think things can come into your dreams. I
Yeah.
don't know how you feel about that, but I had this dream. I was down in my kitchen, and I was just cooking or something, and then all of a sudden I felt that sick, evil thing there, and all the doors, the cupboard doors in the kitchen, opened.
God.
And I said that happened to my sister at
Yeah.
her house, but it wasn't on my radar. I hadn't thought about that for years. So I was in this, and I was terrified. and I turned around and I to try to see what it was, and then I think I woke up. But I was scared. Like I was scared for a few hours after that. It was so real. So I do think something was trying to come around. Like I said, my son though, he would like a lot of times he'd burn sage or something like that. So I think he kind of kept some of that stuff at bay, the evil
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's like what? Yeah, have you ever felt anything like that? That was terrible.
Well, um,
And I can't really say any. I was thinking, well, is something bad going to happen? And I do think my mom might have passed away close to that time, but I really don't think it had anything to do with that,
yeah.
you know. But
We did have a lot of illness in the house here a few years ago when my wonderful wilderness child took off, actually. Um, we were constantly ill for like about 2 years. All of us. We'd take like we'd have a week, like 1 week would be my turn, then it'd be my partner's turn, and then my son's ill with different various things. I remember my partner actually got sage and went around the house, and after that, we seemed to sort itself out. So I don't know if because back then, as you know, I was doing all the creepy videos and stuff like that, whether or not maybe I attracted some of the wrong sort of elements to the house from doing that. I don't know because it was around
yeah,
that time that it happened.
do you think I got to thinking after I just talked to you, but I've never thought about it before. Is maybe the um the park we were at, maybe we carried something home there with us that night.
Mm.
It was like a Kings Island type place with a lot of people. I do think sometimes you carry things home. Um, this is interesting. Because it just made me remember. My daughter was doing her thesis. She was in art. So she went to a lot of old buildings. Hers was like chairs. She, artist. So um, she put like she find old chairs in these old buildings and take pictures and stuff like that. So my husband and her were at that time were going around to some old factories and old schools that were abandoned, and I didn't think it was a good idea. Um, but my husband went with her, with for safety reasons, because you don't want to do that by yourself.
No.
But even him going wasn't a good idea. So they were in some places they shouldn't have been. So they were in this cartridge factory around here, and I went with them that day. And it was, the place was kind of creepy, but old places like that are.
Mm.
So she ran around, took a bunch of pictures, and we got out of there. And when we got home, we're just hanging out. But then for a few days after that, weird stuff was happening. Like my husband's horn in his truck would just start going off, and it was not an old
Mm.
truck. Any issues like that. So, and then it just felt like something was around. And I was like, I told my husband, I said, I don't think you guys should be going to those old places because I think it's bringing some energy back.
Yeah, it could be
You
right.
should, what do you call it? Some protection?
Yeah,
It's like nothing of protection or something.
could be that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
could
And
be.
back to that though, I was thinking about my husband's truck and everything. We had some gravel brought into our driveway one time, and my husband was out there, and he wasn't as much into paranormal as me, but I think he was kind of open to it. So they dumped the gravel, and he's out there just working away, and he said he heard a voice, like just a man's voice say Marty, say his name,
Yeah.
and that was in the middle of the day. So I don't know, but my husband also had a shop out there, and he he got some tools from a lady that had committed suicide. And I tell him I don't think that's a good idea, but
Yeah.
he's like, well, so cheap, and he said these, they were really kind of specialized tools because he made like scale models and things like that. And I was like, well, okay. So it seemed to me that the shop was always haunted, but it was brand new. I mean,
Mm.
it wasn't part of that old house. Like I said, we built the shop. So it's new, you know.
Yeah.
But it always seemed like there was something out there. Now I don't know if it was because he brought in her stuff or
Yeah.
what, but it was a place I never wanted to go out and do anything in at night. And he
Yeah.
had, it was well lit and everything. It was even had heat. So I was like, I don't know. And my
Yeah.
son was the same way. He would go out to do some woodworking or something, and he said, "Man, I can't stay out there." Um, he said, "The energy's just wrong here."
Yeah. I just had something pop in my head as you were saying that. I don't know if this is right, but this is what I'm being guided. It wasn't that they brought anything bad back with them. It's just that they brought something back with them, like the chair and the tools, which maybe I don't say a bad spirit. Maybe it was the spirit of that woman that committed suicide. She was attracted to. She wanted her tools. That's why she came here. Came to where you were because she wanted the tools. It wasn't that there was anything actually wrong with anything. On the same with the
Right.
chair, maybe they picked up a chair that somebody a bad spirit was attracted to, and again, then they came to the house because the spirit was there and because the chair was there. I think it's and in certain houses as well. Well, of course, then it might be actual ex people that actually lived there or died there, and that would explain that, of course, so certain houses. But I just got that thinking in my head when you were saying about it, and I think, well, that sort of makes sense a bit, doesn't it? If you think about
Yeah.
it, you know.
Well, and they say there's energy with furniture and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, this is another thing, and I kind of this was back when things were fun. This was before the terrorist attacks here. When you could fly on a plane and you could carry all kinds of stuff home
Yeah.
on the plane. So we went on a cruise with the kids, and we went to one of the islands, and they have all those masks and things like that. Actually, I have some stuff from New Orleans here, but my son got this real scary looking mask. I think it was in New Orleans. And then my daughter got a little one too, and they got a couple of those. What's those dolls that you stick and what do you
Oh
call them?
no. Yeah, I know. Voodoo dolls. Yeah.
Oh, voodoo dolls, voodoo dolls. And they were cool. So anyway, well, I remember us carrying those home on a plane, which is odd because now you would have to, I don't even know how you would get them home. But anyway, my son put his up in his room, no problem. But my daughter, she something scared her about hers.
Hmm.
She said it moved or something on her dresser, and so she gave it to my son. And she said she didn't ever want it in her room again. And the funny part is my son, because he moves out with his new wife, and the mask, she's like, I don't want him. I don't want to see him in my house. They're scaring me. So he's got this room where he has his artifacts and stuff, and that's where he keeps them.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I didn't feel anything bad about their mask or anything. But obviously, some other people were.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The tribal mask, though, is what they were.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's some energy. And, this is an interesting thing, too. This happened to me at work. and I know when bad things happen, they seem to happen all at once. But there was this, I don't know what she was made out of. She was made out of some kind of special wood. And she was like an African artifact.
Yeah.
And she didn't really have anything on but she had like a skirt. And I mean, she was really pretty, but kind of creepy. So anyway, they moved our office around at work all the time. So this African artifact is following everybody everywhere. And nobody seemed to like it. And it had been in different people's offices, and then they quit or leave. And so there it was. So I thought, I'm going to take it home. I asked my boss, and he's like, yeah, go ahead. Nobody wants that thing anyhow. So, but I think it was really worth something. It was really beautiful, and I don't know what kind of wood she was made out of or where she came from. But so I brought her home, and I put her in the corner of the living room, and all this bad stuff started happening in my
Yeah.
life. You know, my husband got sick. My nephew died 2 months after that. Just horrible. You know, we were just having a lot of bad things going on.
Mm.
So, so I got to thinking about that thing. I mean, she was right there in the living room where
Mm.
my husband ended up passing away. So, because he wanted to go home and pass away. So, I took her back. I took her back to work, and I put her downstairs. We worked in this huge student center. I put her downstairs. I didn't want her back in my office. I didn't want her around me. So, but then the building manager, he comes running up there like a couple days later and talking to my boss. He said, "I think this is yours. This is yours, isn't it?" So she comes back, and yeah, he's like, "Yeah, it's ours." And he didn't know what was. He didn't even ask me why it was back or anything. I don't even know if it clicked with him. But so here she is again. She's sitting over there in this, in this center where I worked. But she stayed there for a long time. Didn't seem like anything was bad was happening there, but it seemed like things kind of lightened up at home. And then another lady said she was going to take her home, and I told her, I said, "Be careful with that. Be
Mm.
careful. There's an energy." And she said, "Oh, it won't hurt me. There's nothing wrong. It can't hurt me." So she took it. Now I don't know. I see her every now and then, but I've never asked her if she had any experiences with
Yeah.
it. So, but
Mm.
I know, and I had a picture of it actually, and I posted it on a group I was in, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, that's not good."
Mm. Well, you need to ask her next time you see her now. So we get closure. So,
I
has anything
don't know,
happened?
I got thinking, and I was like, well, and it's not my life had been perfect or anything, but
Yeah.
my goodness, I mean, there was so much going on that year that was just like, can we take anything else? You
Mm.
know? So I definitely didn't want her maybe she wanted to be back at work. Maybe she liked it there. I
Mm.
don't
Maybe.
know. She should have settled down. I was surprised no one else took her home when they ended up leaving. No, because it was such a nice artifact, and she really didn't seem to belong to the center. Really, she just kind of was. We don't even know where she came from. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Mm.
But we had some artifacts, it was an office of diversity, and when I first started there, they had a lot of artifacts, but then they moved us around, and we kind of, some of them got in storage and whatnot. So
Mm.
yeah. But, so I do think there's an energy with objects.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um. Well, there's a famous story, isn't it, of the doll, Annabelle doll, is it? With oh, what they call it? I can't remember the name now.
Have you ever seen it?
No, I've seen pictures of it. Yeah, I haven't seen it close up.
Oh,
No.
I saw her. We were getting ready to leave Florida, and we stopped at that museum, and I saw it. Um, I wanted to take a picture, but they say not to, so I
Oh,
didn't. I mean, she's just creepy,
yeah.
you know. She's in Key West, right? That was Key. Yeah.
There's the
And there's a
Warrens in it. Warrens that had it, wasn't it? Warrens had her in a museum at one point. I don't know if it is still. It's still in the same
yeah.
place. I don't know, but that's where it originally was held.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think she was in this. Is it a maritime museum in Key West? When
Right.
oh, right, it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creepy stuff in Key West too. It's an old, town, and Ernest Hemingway had his home there, and he committed suicide, and yeah, but it's a neat place.
Hmm.
But yeah, and then there's that cursed chair, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had talking about cursed device, cursed things. When in 1970s there was a series of house fires, and it all seemed to revolve around people having these crying child boy paintings.
Oh
And we actually
yes.
had one, and we actually had a fire as well. But lucky it wasn't too bad. It was a kitchen fire, but the house was fine, you know. But we had one, and there was loads of incidents where people who had these crying boy pictures had fires in the house in the UK. I don't know if it was, they had them in America, but there's loads. I just remembered about it now. I was talking about items having bad vibrations and stuff, bad vibes, you know. So yeah, we had one.
I read about that. So
Yeah.
even if it's like just a copy, they said like a replica of it, right?
Um, I think they were all
Yeah,
they were mass produced ones. They weren't.
yeah,
They were
dude.
cheap. They weren't just nothing.
Yeah,
You know. Yeah, mass produced they were.
there must be something to it because I was reading. There were so many people that were saying that it had happened to them.
Yeah.
And what do you? I wonder what that's about. You know, I don't
And
know.
you know the painting was untouched when we had the fire as well. They had smoke damage in the room it was in, but the painting was no smoke damage on it.
I know,
So,
and that's another thing I've read about that. Isn't
yeah.
that
So
strange?
it was my
So
mother's. It was, and it just happened to be there when she passed away. I just hadn't got rid of it. You know, at the time, it just one of these items you just hadn't got rid of, and didn't really bother me. And then we had a fire. So there we go.
yeah, it's weird. Back to the old house though that I lived in. You play music, so you know about recording.
Yeah.
So my son has had some recording equipment, and he had kind of a studio in this big bedroom he was in. And him and his friend were recording, and he's still got this recording. Um, the stairs were carpeted, and all through the house we had these beautiful wood floors, but we had hardwood. Or we had big rugs on them, so there wasn't any like open areas where you'd walk and hear anybody. Maybe in the kitchen, but even that had like those big rugs.
Yeah.
So they were recording this song, and you can hear in this song, it's like a lady walking, and her within heels, and you can hear her walking. But there's nothing in our house. There was nobody there but him and his friend Cody,
Oh.
and it's so strange. It's just weird. It's creepy, and they left it in the song. But I was like, he's like, Mom, listen to this, and I know there was no way that they could have even made that sound. It's just like somebody walking on a hardwood floor or a tile floor with heels on, you know, kind of that
Well.
echoey sound.
Yeah.
And so his friend Cody, again, there's another kid said, I'm not coming back here.
Did your children have any friends that by the time you moved, that they all still stay away?
Other kids didn't care, but
All right.
you know, uh, I don't know. Maybe there's something trying to chase off their friends.
Yeah.
I, but then again, oh, this is so funny because talking to you brings up memories. Because, like I said, I lived there a long time. Um, when we first moved there, like I said, the upstairs wasn't done. So my husband, he being a worker, he was always working. Um, he was wanting to have the shop, but we didn't have the money to build a shop. So he made our upstairs, one of the upstairs rooms. They were so big, this big old house. He made it into like a shop, so a temporary shop, and he put like a lathe up there. Or I don't know if it was a lathe. There's a workbench with this
Mm.
little what's the thing that you tighten it up and
Oh,
you
Vice.
a vise.
Vice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, he got some jobs. He was doing some stuff, and um, he hired the kid down the street. I guess he was not really a kid, but he was in his 20s, early 20s.
Yeah.
Uh, he hired him to help him do some stuff. I think he was making ball card cases. They were big back in the 90s, maybe. I think it was the
Mm.
90s. And he was doing some of that for somebody. So um, they worked upstairs, and the house was so big you couldn't even hear them if you were downstairs. But anyway, my husband uh, had the kid come over one day when he was at work. Sometimes the kid would come over when he was at work, and the kid was up there working by himself. And then he come down. He came down a couple times one day and said he just felt weird. And I was like, well, if you want to leave, you can. I said, you can just tell Marty you can come back later tonight. So anyway, he was kind of acting like he didn't like being alone up there, which I thought, well, maybe he's just young and getting creepy.
Yeah.
So I wasn't much older. I think I was about 30. So one day, my husband and him were up there working, and the kid came down. His name was Ted, and he was talking to me for a few minutes, and he went back upstairs. And my husband told me this. He said Ted was scared half to death because he went in the room where the vice was,
Mm-hmm.
and it was he had it closed. Well, it was completely open. So he asked my husband. He said, were you working on the vice?" And my husband said, "No, I haven't moved since you left the room. I've been over here." And he said Ted's face just went white, and he's like, "There's no way that anybody could have done that. I mean, it could have done that on its own."
Yeah.
So yeah, there was something going on there too. So that was interesting. So maybe something didn't like people there. When you tell stories, it doesn't click with you. When you're living it, it doesn't click with you. But when I look back on it now, I'm like, maybe something was trying to keep people away from us or something, or was very protective of the house.
So do you think that houses actually have got almost like souls in a sense? They've got the vibration, or do you think there's something in them?
I think it's a combination of, like we talked about, with objects sometimes bring into the house, or maybe an object that someone's left there.
Yeah.
And spirits. I think there's different spirits. Like I think in that house was being so old that there were several different spirits there. Yeah, that's what I think. What do you think?
I don't know. I've just started coming in my head the last few days, just thinking about it. Like, do houses have souls? Do they attract, as you say, spirits? Good spirits, bad spirits. Just been thinking about it. I don't really know. I haven't got the answer. No, I don't have the answer. I've just been spinning my head the last few days. Sometimes things like this happen. Like some of the videos I talked to you about last night that I've done, I actually have the idea for maybe 3-4 weeks, and I've been thinking about it, thinking this side of it, and it just came in my head. And I was going to ask last night a medium friend, and I forgot all about it. I was going to ask him, and I forgot about it.
But those kind of like you were manifest.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah. I was just going to say that. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is your house a manifestation of what you wanted in your mind? Sort of, I don't know, stuff like that. It's just really hard to put into words what I mean, but just trying to make sense of it all, so to speak.
Yeah. I do know. Out where we used to live, there must have been some Indians around or something a long time ago, because my son always found a lot of arrowheads out in the field. And actually, we built an above ground pool, or we had an above ground pool put in, so they dug all around there. And I just walked out there one day and found this huge arrowhead.
Wow.
And it was crazy. I'm like, because you look for those everywhere.
Yeah.
Here it was. So it was so there's a lot of, I think with the Indians, or what they call them, indigenous now, but there's a lot of energy around. They're very spiritual. So it could be that too. I definitely, there's so many stories about that house. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that happened. I talked to you a little bit, and I don't think, we didn't talk about it here, about when my husband got sick, the birds.
Yeah, we did. That was good. Wow.
Yeah, like I said, well, I'll just tell you a whole story again. Like I said, at the time they weren't sure what was wrong with him, so they were sending him home, but he was having trouble breathing a lot. So he got home, couldn't breathe. We had to take him back to the hospital. So I was like, let's go. So he didn't want to go, but we got him in the car. I got him in the car, and like I said, we were driving down the road, and just right as soon as we got to our first neighbor's house, these 3 vultures just flew right up over the hood of the car. So, that scared everybody. We scared him. But that was, I think, one of the first things that happened. But then, so he was in the hospital a few weeks. They were trying to figure out what was wrong with him. And this was strange. I was doing a lot of gardening around the house, and I was finding dead birds. But, occasionally out there, we're out in the country, you'll find a dead bird here and there.
Yeah.
But I just find a lot of them. And so that was making me a little uncomfortable. And then one day he was having a test. He had a test run that morning, and I was going to go and visit him and see what was going on. And as I was getting ready, this little bird comes over to the window, and he starts pecking on the window. And that happens too, because they build nests, and it was June. It was a little past when they do that. Usually they do it early spring. So he's pecking on the window, and so, I didn't pay attention to it. So then I went into another area. I was putting on makeup or something, and there's window there. He came over there, and he's just pecking on the window. And I thought, well, I wonder if that's a good omen or a bad omen. So anyway, and I don't know. I think he was trying to tell me something. So anyway, and I went there that day. I think on the test, he had found some bad things. We kept finding bad stuff. I can't remember what they found that day. But yeah, so I was like, I wonder if it was trying to give me a sign, And then he eventually he came home to pass away. They wanted to leave him in the hospital, but he wanted to die in the house. So they took him home and put him on oxygen. So he was on hospice. And we had hospice nurses around the clock there because he was near the end. And so I was sitting out at our kitchen table talking to one of the nurses. And we had these big windows in the kitchen. And we were just talking. And this bird hit the window. And I mean, just flew into the window. And it died. And I've had that happen out there before, but a lot of times they almost never die. They just hit the window, maybe bounce off and take off.
Yeah.
But this bird died, and the hospice nurse was like, "Oh my God, that's not good." And I said, "No." And I think he passed away maybe 2 days later, because there's that I used to think that was an old wise tale about the birds and but after all this bird stuff going on with him, I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think there's animals come and give us signs or something.
Yeah.
And this is really funny. It kind of ties into my new partner. He lost his mother about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and he always sees like cardinals and things like that. And then once he mentioned it to me, it's like I always see him now too. So I don't know if it's his mother, And one time he was going on a trip. This was weird. Actually, he was going to see his mother's grave for the first time because she was in New York and he's here in Ohio. And, they buried her, of course, but they didn't have the headstone and everything. So about a year later, him and his family decided they were going to go see her headstone in New York. So he was flying out. I didn't go with him because I just started dating him anyway. So they were flying out, and it was kind of a rainy morning, actually. And I have a deck door, and he called me and said, "I'm getting ready to get on the flight," and whatever. And I said, great. And so as right after I hung up with him, this little cardinal hit my deck door and flew off. And what was really weird, and I still have it, I think, is a little feather. It left a little feather on. It was the glass was a little wet. It left a little tiny feather on the door. And I sent him the picture because I was like, I guess this is a good omen. Maybe it's your mother.
Yeah.
And he thought it was really strange. He said, I think it was a sign. I think she was just trying to tell us that she, knew he was on his way or something. Because at first it scared me. I was like, well, does that mean, he's playing, he flew? So I was like, is something going to happen? But I think it was her.
Yeah.
I do.
Does sound like it.
Yeah.
In the UK, they got, I don't know if it's the same in the States, their superstition, never have birds in the house. It's supposed to be bad luck or something. It used to be a superstition here. I remember my auntie would never have a bird. Like, back when I was growing up, everyone had a budgie or a canary in a cage in the house when I grew up. Nobody does anymore, but back then we did. But my auntie, no, would never have a bird in the house. And she also wouldn't have anything green in the house when she was younger. She said, yeah, nothing green in the house. Very superstitious when we were all young. But now, as I say, we're getting older, these superstitions have died with them now. You don't see them now, hardly at all.
Right.
In the UK, I don't know what it's like, with you, but over here, we hardly anyone's superstitious now. The superstitions have died over the years. Most of them have, anyway.
Right. Well, I always thought the bird thing was kind of silly, but now I don't because I've had some other experiences too. And it was just getting crazy with my husband though, because I was like, this has got to be more than coincidental with the vultures and the bird that hit the window and the bird that was pecking on the window and the couple birds I found right outside in my flower beds. And, I think it was just a sign of things that were going on,
Yeah.
or to come maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happens, but
I'm not quite sure either, but I do think it was them trying to tell you something, but I'm not quite sure what it all means, but I do think it was a sign, yes, but putting it all together, I don't know, I don't know what to say, that way, but
and I don't know. I think that is paranormal too. And it's funny. The hospice nurse said she had that happen before.
All right, that's interesting.
Too, because they're always at people's houses and stuff. But so that was kind of scary. But I'm trying to think of one more thing to tell you that happened at that house. Gosh, like I said, there's been so much. Yeah. I never have actually. The funny thing about that house is I never saw a ghost outside of the top hat in the end that I saw down the street. I never saw a ghost, but you could feel it, the energy there, and were happening. I did have. I think someone punched me that one time because I was asleep like on this love seat, so it was up against a wall, and we had cats, but. The cat couldn't get over to that wall anyway, but so my son was asleep on a couch and I felt something punch my arm and it woke me up and there was nothing there. So again, it was in that little area there, like I said, that went into that hallway and down the bathroom. There's something in that house there. I always wonder that the new people that move there, if they think it's haunted. And this is terrible. I I left. We had a board. We had a Ouija board, and I thought that was just something silly. I did. I thought, well, so me and the kids played it one time, and then we played it another time. It was just, I think, about the second time we played it. And as we were playing it, our little dog, she used to lay on this porch swing, she was always on that porch swing, and as we were playing it, she got her paw stuck in one of the slats when she was getting up, and she was just like screaming and barking, and it scared us all to death, because
Mm-hmm.
we're playing with the board. It's in the middle of the day. So, but anyway, we run out and get her. So that was kind of strange. My daughter freaked out. She wasn't going to play anymore. So that scared her. Then I decided I didn't want to play it anymore. So, you're not supposed to play them alone.
Mm-hmm.
So my son, you know, my daughter got kicked out. I got kicked out. We were both scared. So my son's deciding, well, nobody wants to play board with me, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. But he knew he wasn't supposed to play alone. But I guess he went in the library. That's the cold room.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was on it. He went in the library, and I guess he was playing it by himself, unbeknownst to me. So anyway, a couple weeks later, all this bad stuff starts happening. We put up a beautiful Christmas tree. My daughter decorated it, and this cat that we've had forever, he decides he's going to tear up or jump on a tree. So he knocked it over. That was the first thing. But that we didn't think much of that. Then we got robbed. That was,
Oh.
I was coming home late from work, and the kids called me, and they're like, "Mom, somebody busted the door down." I said, "Well, don't go in the house," and they were already in the house. So we had some things taken, stolen, um, and there was something else that happened that week too. I can't remember. But so anyway, I was telling my husband, I was like, I don't know what's going on this week. There's one thing after another, just awful. And then my son, I don't know how old he was then, but he was in high school. Yeah. He said, "Well, Mom, I guess I shouldn't be playing with the board." I said, "Playing with the board?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was playing it in a library alone." I said, "That's the worst thing to do."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, you think it's got something to do with it?" I said, "Well, I don't know, but definitely don't do it anymore." I said, "Because just in case."
Yeah.
So that was pretty scary. I know you've probably heard a lot of stories about the boards.
Yeah, I used some myself when I was younger. Well, a makeshift one. We made it ourselves. When I was very young, yeah. And I was
Well,
allegedly talking to my grandmother who passed away when she was 37, really young. She passed on in childbirth.
oh,
And she said, apparently, talking to her, she said, "Look after your mum. She hasn't got long to live." And my mother was gone 6 months later. So
wow.
that was a bit freaky. And the glass we used for it, because it was all makeshift, was on a cupboard. No one anywhere near it. And one day it just flew off and dropped onto the ground. And it
Wow.
just broke. So I'm when a while back I was doing videos and I was showing alleged Ouija board footage, stuff going wrong or whatever, and people are all up in that. "Oh, should never use a Ouija board." I wouldn't again anyway. I wouldn't use one now. But
Yeah.
they say that they're very dangerous things, unless you protect yourself enough, I suppose. But I don't think I would try one again anyway myself now.
No, and so well, back to this is why I was telling you this is so I put the board in with all the board games in a cupboard in this old house. So I was getting ready and I'm moving. Oh God, I had so much stuff to move. But moving, packing. So we're getting ready and I get into that cupboard and I get in the games and I decided I just wasn't going to take it with me because they say if you try to get rid of them, that
Yeah.
there's bad stuff that can happen. So I
Okay.
just left it in the cupboard there, and I always wonder what these poor people did when they moved in the house. And here's this board because there was nothing left in that house. I cleaned it out, but there was that board in that cupboard. So
God.
I don't
I
know
bet
if
that
they
would have
used.
freaked them out when they found that.
Yeah, I bet it was pretty freaky for
Is
them.
it?
They're
But
probably like, "Why is this here?"
yeah, lucky you didn't leave a forwarding address. They'll be sending it to you in the mail.
I mean, I think they kind of knew where I would lived because they were at the closing, but they didn't send it. I was like, I hope it doesn't come back
Yeah.
because I've heard if you burn them, they come back. I've heard
I don't
if
know.
you throw them away. I mean, I was just like, I'm not going to take a chance on that, and I didn't want to. Nobody wanted it, you know.
Yeah. It's the thing about them from my phone's going off. I understand is they can open a portal to the other side, which you can do through mediumship. You can do it in a lot of different ways. But the fact is, people who use them are doing it who are not like protected, or they're not grounded. They're not like in the right place when they're doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because me as a healer, I'm channeling from the other side, so I'm linked to the other side. You know what I mean? But and yet mediums, they're linked to the other side, but they're protected. They're not like having bad stuff happen to them. But I think with a Ouija board is people who are unskilled at using them, maybe, and that's where bad things can happen. I think if you know what you're doing, not that I'm planning to use them, but I think if you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
you'd be fine with them. You could use them as a tool. A medium could use them as a tool or something. I would imagine, but I don't really know enough about them to say for sure. But
Yeah, I don't I always feel like if you have to protect yourself, why would you use it? Because
yeah,
I've groups where and people, it's a very hot topic. You got to be
yeah,
careful.
it is. Yeah,
People get heated, but I always say, why would you use something that you have to protect yourself, get protection from? That's dangerous right
it's
there,
just yeah.
right?
You could say that. Yeah, yeah, fair enough. But you say with healing as well.
It's
I
like you're
gotta
going
put.
into battle.
Yeah, yeah. Like healing as well, though. I've got to protect myself when I heal. It's just you
Well,
say the
I can
same
see
thing. I have to do it because otherwise it all comes, you know,
Yeah,
badness
I
comes
can
onto me.
see that. But if there's that much potential to bring in a bad spirit on a board or
Yeah,
something you don't know about that could follow you around forever or just ruin your life, why would you do it? It's not like you're
yeah,
healing it or doing anything good with the board. I think if somebody wants to come through to you, they will in
yeah.
different ways. Kind of like my partner's mom. I think she gave me a sign, you
Hmm.
know. And I think she kind of likes me because I never met her, and he was very close to her. But like sometimes I'll get mad at him or something. I'll be like, oh God. And then it's never fails.
Hmm.
I'll see a cardinal, or I always see a cardinal or something like that.
Yeah. Um.
I saw a shooting star. It was so yeah. I'm like,
Mhm.
what is that? And it's funny because I think it happens to him too. Because one morning we were kind of arguing, and he was going out for a walk. He wasn't here, so he was at his house, and then so later on in the day we talked, and he said, when I was going out on my walk, I saw two cardinals right outside my door, right
Hmm.
in, and he said I never see that. So I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes think we get signs from even people that are still with us. You know, in a way, like because one time, oh God, I think about 8 years ago, real bad. No, it wouldn't be that, about 7 years ago. Real bad row with my partner. No, we have big. I call it rows, but they're over before they start. And I had to, and my son was playing up, and I had to leave the house. I just had to get out because it was just like mad here. And I drove
Yeah.
to a local supermarket, and lo and behold, there was a car with a personalised number plate of the name of my son. It made me think about my son, and I came straight home.
Wow.
That's actually happened twice. Okay, I've had to leave the house because it's got, things have got too much. I just had to go. I go into the shop, I've just got to get out. And then I see a number plate with his name on it. It's like, whoa, this is freaky. And then it makes me think about him, and I usually end up coming home almost straight away.
Do you think it's somebody that's already passed on trying to give you a sign?
I don't know. Maybe, yeah, maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is.
Because I didn't send you, did I? The license plate of my dad.
Yes, you did. Yes.
I thought I did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was just having a real down day, because like I said, my whole life was just kind of uprooted, and I had to move from my old house, and my husband had passed away, and I moved to this new house, and I was just driving home, and a lot of times I'd reflect on my drive, about
Mm,
things. That really was therapeutic for me.
yeah.
So, like I said, I was crossing the bridge coming into Middletown here, and then I see this car with that license plate, R. Coy Senior, and that's my dad. I took a picture of it and I sent it to my brother because he's R. Coy, he's Robert Coy Jr. And he's like, "You gotta be
Oh,
kidding me." So,
sorry. Oh, I got a phone call. I got a phone call. Can I wrap it up now? We wrap it up.
sure,
Okay.
sure.
Thank you very much.
John.
Speak soon.